going to start. Welcome to another episode of the Merrymen podcast, where we discuss real life issues that shape us as men, striving for faith, growth, and impact. Today we are diving into a very, very relevant topic, and it's called balancing faith, work, and family as a modern man. In today's fast-paced world, you have to juggle career ambition, personal faith, and family responsibilities, and that's no small task. So the question is, how do we stay committed to our faith while we are thriving in our profession, and how do we ensure our families get the attention they deserve? So this is just a conversation around, most times we look at society today, somebody might be very good in faith. When you look at the family side of things, person is not really committed to family, or maybe the kids are not, they are suffering for it, that kind of thing. Or person is so committed to his work and doesn't have time for his faith or church or stuff like that. So this topic is just basically around how to strike a balance, because at the end of the day, what makes us all men is when we're able to strike a balance around faith, family, and work. And so today I'm honored to have two insightful men in particular here to join us on this podcast today. We have Daniel Tubenemi, who is a newly married tech professional navigating work and faith in Nigeria. We also have Peter Olayoye, a finance expert and father of a 5-month-old baby. Am I right? 5-month-old, right?
Oh, 6 months already.
Yeah, nice. Okay, 6-month-old baby, managing career demands while staying grounded in faith and family. So I'm going to ask them to just say like a quick hello and share like in one line about your experience with balancing your life in terms of faith, work, and family together. So I'll start with them.
All right. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I think I was just thinking through going for this show. I think recently, for the first time, and I felt so overwhelmed. I can't remember if I had ever felt that much overwhelmed until we had her baby, right? When we were to just myself and my wife, it was very smooth. At the time we had our baby, that was when I felt what is called overwhelmed. Like I felt really overwhelmed. And mentally, physically, I was drained. Like I was really drained. My work was also demanding. Expectations from my wife increased. I have to be there for her. Of course, and we are talking about faith too. And I would describe faith as, of course, your relationship with God and the church. That was also, there's so many assignments too from the church. So balancing this was really, really a big work for me to do. And by God's grace, it's a phase, and I was able to scale through. As we go on in the session, I will still share further on how, by God's grace, I was able to pull through. Of course, it's a work in progress. In balancing my faith, my family life now, more commitment, and also my work. I think that has been that there has been a progress. Let me leave it there. Let me allow others.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. I'll still come back to you. So Daniel, can you just give us like briefly what balancing faith, work, and family has been for you?
Okay, thank you very much for having me here. It's an opportunity. So for me, balancing these three things has changed for me in the past 4 months. So I got married in December last year, and my life pattern has changed a bit, but not so much, because it's just one more person in the family. You get what I mean?
Did you say not too much? Is it not too much?
Not so much. Not so much. So it's it has not really been a Herculean task for me to balance so far yet, because I know that in life we would have to go through balancing. I think part of what we're going to do as men and as individuals, even women too, will be trying to balance throughout life. So for me, God has been helping to balance my personal life, work, family as well. I experienced change the last 4 months, like I said, not so much change yet.
Thank you very much. You know, when I started, I said something around the fact that when you look at some prominent people that we admire, some of them are doing very well in their career, so well. When you now try to pay attention to their families, you get disappointed a bit. Or when you pay attention to their faith, it might be a little bit of disappointment. And we know we're on a journey to live a well balanced life such that we can do well on every sphere of life. So, my question to you all is: do you think balance is possible from your point of view? Is it possible to do so well in career, do so well in family, so that you are raising kids in a very, very efficient way, and do so well in your faith as well? So, from your point of view, can you share with us? Anyone? I'll throw it out now. Anyone?
Okay, maybe I should just go first. So I think that um balancing. So what balance means, right? Balance means a state of let's say equilibrium, opposing forces. They're trying to attain a state of equilibrium whereby there's no part of life that is weighing over the other.
Lower,
Okay.
yes. All right.
So my own opinion, I think that my own opinion is you can't attain 100% balance, but I think
Okay.
that you can do so much to get by work and also do the things that are most important to you. But I don't believe that everything will be 100% at all times.
Interesting. To go back to that. I want to hear your point of view, Sir Peter.
Oh, okay. So the word balance actually for me is very, very subjective, right? What balance is to Mr. A is different from what balance is to Mr. B. Right. So for me, I think balancing is just defining what your priorities are, and you are living with that consciousness and awareness. Um,
Mm.
the fact that okay, you want to live a life of balance does not mean that you'll be 100% in every areas of your life. I think we are considering faith, considering family, and career, right? So for me, I've been able to, of course, define what my priority is. For me, number one is my faith.
Mm.
That's the number one thing that a man should prioritize. That's your spiritual health. And if that is up there, I believe every other area can find expression. But if that number one thing is missing, that's when it will because I've been there. Just like I told you, when we had our baby, I was not finding so much time to pray. The way I would normally pray, the time I would spend praying, work is also demanding, and I was not praying the way I should, and I was feeling it. In fact, at some time, I was feeling so much withdrawn. And thank God I was able to communicate to my wife, right? Because I know she'll be wondering what is happening to this. So I was able to communicate, but it was even a text that no, this is what I'm passing through. And because for me, for my wife, what she is key about too is also my spiritual health. Because as a man, I'm the priest of the home. So if that is shaky, then I'm not helping any other person. So I need to help my first. That's my spiritual health. That's priority to me. If I can maintain that as a key factor in building a balance around my life, then that's it. Then for me, I would choose my family over any other thing. I said my faith. That's my spiritual health. Then of
Yeah.
course, when you say faith, you're also talking about church, your community, your spiritual community. For me, what follows is my family. Then of course, the church, then my work. So balancing is finding what your priorities are. You are defining what your priorities are. You are able to lead in alignment with that priority you've set for yourself. And
Okay.
let me stop there. Let me stop.
That's interesting. So for you, balancing is being able to live in alignment with your priorities, what you have set as your priorities. That's and like you said, it's interesting how you said balance is relative to different people. What balance means to this person may not be what balance to. Although in this context, we're talking about faith, family, and work. Okay,
Well, yeah,
rather.
yeah.
So, and it's also interesting that Daniel said, yes, it's not the opinion, which is quite similar to what you're saying now, because, or maybe not exactly. Daniel said something about how it's not, he doesn't think it's possible to be 100% on each of these fronts. Maybe one might suffer for it. But I don't know if I should. I don't know if you look out there, we have people that feel like. Do you think there are role models, people out there that you can say, you can point out and say, oh, this person is doing well in family, career, and faith? I feel like there might be people out there. Pastor Tobe, for instance.
Yeah.
When we see him from afar, you know, the ideal picture we have of him is that this man is doing so well. He's a role model, doing well in faith, doing well in family. You see pictures of his family. He's doing well in what's it called, in career, because we see his strides on LinkedIn and all that. And it's very easy to just tell from afar that these people are doing very well. But it's interesting that now when we are, and I'm trying to get closer into the reality of things. Do you think that if we dig into the lives of these people, they will say the same thing? Do you think that people that admire them, do you think they'll say the same thing about the fact that it's not possible to do? What do you think?
Oh, well,
Or is it from your own perspective you've said that? Or do you think it's generally speaking, do you think it's possible? If you get what I mean, do you get my
I
question?
didn't get what your question is.
So my question is that we have role models around us that we admire,
Okay.
right? And I gave the example of Pastor Tobe,
Yeah.
the pastor of the faith church, and I said when you look at faith, career, and family, it seems like a role model. It seems like it's doing well on all fronts, and there might be other people in that category as well. But I'm saying that based on what you said about balance, now if we approach these people that we admire, do you think they'll say the same thing, that it's not possible to 100% on faith, family, and career? Do you think they'll say the same thing? That's my question.
okay. So first, for me, right, I don't need to hear their opinion. Just looking
Okay.
at their lives. So I think that they are doing very well. So specifically now, Pastor Tori is doing very, very well. But sometimes the way life is, somehow, most times you cannot just get everything together. So I don't know how far this video will go, but at the moment, Pastor Toby is not with his family. At the moment, he's not with his family.
I'll call that part of. When
Okay,
you say it's
so
not with his family, you mean that because of
because of
distance?
the assignment, yeah, distance and what he has to do concerning his faith and ministry as well.
Yeah.
And then there's the family part. So I think there are certain times in the year when he leaves his family because he has to attend to faith church. So I think that part, some way somehow his children will feel it. If I were to be one of his children and I was say I don't know how old they are, but if I was, let's say, 15 or between 13 to 15, I'll know that my dad is not at home and I really need my dad to be at home. I will feel it. And the impression I will get at that time is maybe dad just really likes faith church so much more than he likes us. You get? So I'm saying that to say that somehow one part of life will definitely give way for the other. But that's not to say that we cannot excel. No, we can excel, but attaining balance such that it is 100%. We are there in our work and ministry, in faith and ministry. We are there at work and for family, 100%. I don't know if it's possible. And also, if you live in a place like Lagos, where you have to leave very early in the morning and come back late in the night.
I get that. And at this point, then, from your perspective and from the example you gave, I think I have to rest my case here. So I'll now go further to now ask, how then do you ensure, how then do you make up for the imbalance? For instance, now say you've been so busy with work and busy with church, and you've not had time for your wife or your kids. how do you make up for it? I'll go. I want Mr. Peter to start with answering that.
Yeah. So okay. Um, Making up for it is
Mm,
it's not something you state, or it's just for me. For instance, I have it as a principle. I don't take work.
mm, mm,
Does
yeah.
that mean that I've never worked at home? Of course, there are some times, but as a principle, I don't take work home. And most times, if I have to work at home, that's my wife is aware. In fact, she'll be like, okay, come and do it at home, because I prefer to just stay at work. Like my closing time is 5, right? I prefer to
Mm-hmm.
stay at work till like maybe 6, finish up on time. And when I'm home, I've been in a workplace where my boss, um, yeah, my boss called around 11 p.m. And at that time, so my wife that picked the call because I was praying. So
Wow.
my wife took the call, said my husband is praying. My boss called the
Mm,
call. And after I finished praying, I called back. He did not pick, right?
mm,
So the following day, and how I asked him that he called and I called back, and he was like, when your wife said you were praying, then I jokingly said, me too, I went to go and pray. What I'm trying to what
nice.
I'm trying to say, they know me at work, right? That
Mm,
I'm a family man, and I I talk about my wife. I talk. They already know.
mm,
This my boss said. I think it's one of the when it was about his wife was about delivering probably his second or his third baby. He was still working. Was in the office working. His wife
mm,
was delivering in the hospital. Like, you know,
crazy.
that's another perspective. That's him. For me, it doesn't work
Mhm,
that way. The work
mm,
can go and see because I can't wrap my head around it. How my wife will be in the labor room, I'm not there with her
mm.
because of anything,
I get your point.
but it's because of work. So number one is, like I said, what is my priority? My family is my priority, and there's any time that is going to change. I'm bringing work home, even church. There are some commitments. I have meetings. There's a place of communication.
Mm,
I'm no longer
mm, right.
a single man. I am married. So whatever I am doing, whatever I'm engaged in, my wife is privy of it. My wife knows exactly what I'm doing. I think
Yeah.
that's just a way to carry her along, so that
Mm-hmm.
when she expects me to do this and I'm in one meeting and I'm working, which will not happen on a regular, no, usually, right? But at
Mm-hmm.
such occasions where okay, I need to take time off, then
Mm,
she knows. I
mm-hmm.
think
I love
that's
that.
one of the ways
I
I've
like, I
been
like, I like, I like,
communicating.
mm, I like your mention of not bringing work home. I mean, it's a very good principle, and such that your colleagues and boss at work are aware of this as well, and they know where
Yeah,
to set the boundaries. Even though we know sometimes some employers can want go out of hand, especially in some settings, but yeah, it's good to let them know your stand. Then, secondly, you mentioned communication, and I think that is very, very key because I mean, when your wife is aware of what's going on, even other aspects of your life, when your boss is aware, when church is aware, when you're communicating well enough, I feel like it's a way to make what's it called, make up for the imbalance. Yeah, thank you for that. I'll now go to Daniel, and knowing that you've just gotten married as network. Then I can hear me.
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so knowing that, I mean, you're newly married. I believe that you said there are not much changes, but I'm sure there will be some changes. What adjustment do you say you have made in balancing your work and marriage? What changes have there been or you have had to make? This can be for somebody out there like maybe is not married. So like what should I look out for? What are the things you have to change, when it comes to balancing your work to your marriage and your faith as well, you know.
Okay, so I would say I'm still balancing. And
Okay.
when we got married, It was a bit of, let me not call it fight, but like, because I was learning how
Mm.
to, attend to her. I mean, coming from a single background. I mean, yes, you're always seeing
Of
betrayed.
course. Yo.
Yeah, so coming from that background, I tended to only think about myself,
Mm.
and then it became an issue such that when we were planning some things to do, there were some things about her I was missing out. So I then knew that I needed to be more intentional and to actually give her her time. So to answer your question, maybe I will just say
Okay.
how my day runs, a
Okay.
typical
So,
day. I think you can still hear me.
do you want to? Do you want to answer? I don't know if he's going to connect quickly.
Can you still hear me?
Lost. Is that
Yeah,
next?
he's back. He's back. He's back now. Can you hear us?
Sorry, can you still hear me?
I can hear you now. So
Back now, yes.
we lost you. Yeah, you're back. Yeah. Yeah. Don't continue from where you stopped.
Okay, so I wanted to say how my typical day runs.
Can you hear us? You know what? Peter, do you want to just go ahead and answer?
Oh,
So I
okay.
can add his own part later.
So,
Did you get the question?
I think I get like what adjustment has been
Yes.
made, right?
Yeah.
Something around that. Okay,
Yeah.
but
So
to
what
start with,
adjustments? Yeah.
you mentioned PT, right? Like Pastor Tobe, and there's something he said recently, and that should be last week, right? He said when a man has sold himself to God, like you are living that life,
Mm.
right? That pleases God. You have sown yourself. I'm talking about your spiritual health now. It's up there. He mentioned something
Mm.
that there's going to be a calibration in your system, like God Himself now going to do a calibration in your system that will affect every other areas of your life. And when he spoke about that, when he mentioned that, that's stuck with me.
Mm.
I ruminated upon that word, those words. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Because you see, look at Pastor W.F. Kumeyi here. He's completely sold out to God, and you can say, look at his health, look at
Mm.
age, at that his age,
Mm-hmm.
still moving from one country to another. It's as if he's a superwoman. And
Mm-hmm.
even look at PT for instance, career is doing well, faith, work. In fact, I think it was just last week he mentioned that, and that has actually stood with me to say that one priority, that number one priority, if you can get it right, you
Mm.
can maintain that relationship, you can grow in God, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
way your system will be recalibrated. That my family
Mm.
life, my career, my work, everything will just work in line because now I'm operating from the spiritual now. Because
Mm.
like we all know,
Mm.
life is spiritual,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
think finding that balance is when you can actually put the first thing first. 7 habits of highly effective people. Was it not habit
Mm.
number? Is it not number 3 that talks about
Yeah.
first? Like know what your priorities are. And I must
Mm.
say that in fact that's key for my wife too. If I ask my wife,
Mm.
what do you want from me? Just
Mm.
like that's your place as a priest.
Mm.
Just maintain it
Mm.
because it's in maintaining it. If I am fine, I can every other person can be fine.
Mm.
So I think
Nice.
yeah, I just wanted to state that. So changes for me, like I said, when we got married, we were friends, we've been friends, just coming together. We have the same interest for it. Yeah, we have the same interest, we have the same value. There was no really changes per se. Of course, some other things you adjust because you are two different individuals. That's in marriage now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
maintaining balance was easy for both of us. The same faith. We're in the choir
Mm-hmm.
together. So I'm talking about interest now. So things moved on.
Mm-hmm.
But when I began to feel that yes, there's a change in role. I'm no longer just an husband or a husband, yeah, as case may be, and I am now dubbing as a father. That's when I begin to find out that no, there is so much work to do. And in fact, at some point, I remembered I had a task in the office that was so draining. It was so demanding, and just a minor issue. I was working on it for months, for weeks, spanning to months, and you will not believe it that the day just came. I was like, Peter, you have God now. You have the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
There was even, I think there was a Sunday. Yeah, I had to be on my laptop, still working on this issue, and it just dawned on me. I was coming back from work one day. This task till like past 8, I will be in the office. Of course, my wife, like I said, communication. My wife is also aware of the issue, so I had to stay
Yeah.
back in the office. I get home tired, and of course, my wife also needs me to do some things at home. And at that point, that was the period I was telling you that I told you that I was overwhelmed. I had to communicate, in fact, to my wife. During those times, I just decided that okay, this night I'm going out on a walk. I did that consistently for weeks just to come out of that. Yeah, I was going out after I come back from office, before I take my dinner. Most times I go out, I will just go out, pray, think. I just needed that time, right? So back to my
Yeah.
story. I was just like, Peter, you have God, you have the Holy Spirit.
Mm.
And immediately I said, Peter, you have God, you have the Holy Spirit. I just what to do for that task just came. Like, and
Yeah.
after that thought came, after that inspiration came, you know that
Mhm.
I just closed that task because I already know I have an answer. I've been working on it, I've been working on it, I've been working on it. When that inspiration came, I was just like, no,
Yeah.
this is it. I did not have, in fact, for like days, I did not open my laptop, or I did
Mhm.
not open that task because I know I had the solution already.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Right.
I'm just trying to say that, when that aspect, for me, that's it. Because when I started, I said maintaining that balance is defining what your priorities are. And as a man, for me, your spiritual health is number one.
Mhm.
If you are fine, then every other person can be fine. If you are not fine, in fact, I'll I'll be more of a burden if that aspect is not fine. Because my
Right.
position as a priest, I have to maintain it. So I think that's it
Right.
for
Right.
me. Don't know if Daniel is back now.
Thank Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, very, very profound. And let me just highlight some of the things you have mentioned now because it looks like you're really very rich in experience in your third time in marriage already. You mentioned something about when it comes to work, you try not to bring the work um, home, which is very interesting. You also mentioned something about communication. In order to make up for any deficit, you communicate properly with your spouse and your wife or any other person involved. And then you also mentioned priority. That for you, balance is knowing your priority and aligning with it. I really love that. That's very profound. So I would, to Daniel now, what I would say is, we're going to round off now. You just give us what one practical wisdom or piece of advice you give to men out there that are struggling to balance faith, work, and family. What would be your advice? We can't hear you. Ah, network. Oh, what's going on? What's going on?
Is Daniel back?
Yeah, it came up fine and went back again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear Daniel.
No, 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 no. Can't see him online.
Okay. Okay, you can hear me. Okay. Alright, well, I said I'll throw the question to you. When he joins, you respond. Um, so I'm saying final words, final wisdom to those that are out there that might be struggling to balance faith, work, and family. Already, you've given very useful insights, but just like a summary now.
Okay. So I think firstly I would say number one is know yourself. Yeah, know yourself. Um, as a man, you have different functional areas, right? For me personally, I'm a husband, father, an employee, a worker in church. So many things demanding my attention.
Mhm.
One thing I say to myself is I am not in competition with any man, anybody. Um, know that for myself. That it is Peter Olayiwoye.
Mhm.
It's me. So
Mhm.
yeah, you look up to others, right? You look up to others, you learn from others. But at the same time, you know yourself, you know your capacity, and without understanding, live life in not in a rush, not as if you are in competition with anybody. Live your life. I also mentioned during the conversation that your spiritual health as a man is very, very key.
Yeah.
Remember what I said stood with me when you have completely sold yourself out to God. There's going to be a
Mhm.
recursion in your system that will affect every other areas of your life. I
Mhm.
think I can leave that with you. I try it. Just make sure you are out there. Yeah. Sometimes it
Mhm.
will be as though you are not feeling that you are not feeling that high. It's that spiritual high. That but at every point you feel that way, go back to God. Just make sure that aspect of your life is stable. Then every other aspect
Mhm.
can find expression. I think
Mhm.
that's it for me.
And thank you for that. So you really look like most every other all other aspects of life are kind of connected to our spirituality, such that when your spiritual health is good, it will take care of every other thing. That's your submission on this. And yes, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. So this has been. I wish Daniel's network was very great, but I'm not going to stress him further. But yeah, this has been a rich conversation. There's been, as short as it was, and despite the network issues, a lot of very useful insight that we've gained from this, which I'll try to highlight when we are posting this out there. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you for your
Thank
contribution.
you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Peter, for sharing your experiences as well. And for our listeners, we'd love to hear from you, your perspective. What do you think about balance? Do you think balance is possible? How do you balance your own work, faith, and family? Try to comment on our videos and tag us also when you respond as well. Till our next episode, see you later. Thank you very much. All right, Peter, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll just stop the recording now.